Nora's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Blood pooled dark against Jackson Blackwood's temple as she threaded the needle, and his steel-grey eyes never left her face. Always watching. "You're afraid," he said. "I'm focused." The needle pierced his skin. He didn't flinch. "This would be easier if you'd stop staring. Are you going to run?" The question hung between them, sharp as the needle in her hand. "I gave you my word, Mr. Blackwood." Jackson. His fingers caught her wrist gentle, despite hands that could break her. "After 2 weeks of marriage, you could use my name." Marriage. The word still felt like a costume. Like the telegram that had brought her here 3 weeks ago, crumpled in her trunk upstairs. "Marry me. Ranch needs a woman's hand. A child needs a mother." Wire answer. She'd read it 17 times on the rattling stagecoach to Bitterroot Valley. 3 weeks earlier. The stagecoach lurched to a stop outside Blackwood Mercantile, and Nora Bennett's carefully maintained composure cracked when she saw him. Jackson Blackwood was constructed on a scale that belonged to mythology, not Montana. 6'4" with shoulders that could carry a plow and hands that could span her waist. Dark hair curling under his hat brim. Eyes like steel before it's forged. He looked at her the way a man might assess livestock at auction. "Miss Bennett." His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "You're smaller than I expected." Nora's spine stiffened. She'd survived Boston's cruelest drawing rooms. She wouldn't be cowed by a tactless rancher. "And you're exactly as charming as your telegram suggested, Mr. Blackwood." She stepped down without his assistance. Her boot heel caught. She pitched forward. Jackson caught her with one arm, steadying her like she weighed nothing. Up close, he smelled like leather and pine and something that made her Boston finishing school training completely irrelevant. "Careful," he said, releasing her instantly. "Ground's not like your city sidewalks." "I'm perfectly capable." "We'll see." He collected her trunk with unsettling ease. "Ranch is a 2-hour ride. We'll discuss arrangements on the way." Nora's chest tightened. "I assumed we'd talk first. About the terms." Jackson finally looked at her directly, and the intensity stole her breath. "Terms are simple. You teach my daughter. Manage the house. Present yourself as my wife. I provide protection, security, respect." His jaw tightened. "You want poetry, you should have stayed in Boston." The words stung because they echoed her desperation. Her father's bank had failed. His suicide had destroyed their name. She'd been measuring out how long $3 could sustain her when Theodore Pemberton made his offer. Mistress, not wife. Jackson's telegram had arrived the same day. "Poetry wasn't on my list," Nora said quietly. Honesty was. Something flickered in his expression. "Fair enough. Let's go meet Lily. She's the one you need to win over." A girl burst from the ranch house before Jackson could help Nora down. All long limbs and wild dark hair, maybe 10 years old, with her father's steel-grey eyes. "You came." Lily skidded to a stop. "Papa said you probably wouldn't. Said Boston ladies aren't made for Montana." "Lily." Jackson's voice carried a warning. "Manners. I left them with my last governess. The one who ran off with the cattle buyer." Lily grinned, gap-toothed and defiant. "Are you going to run off too?" Nora knelt in the dust, not caring about her silk skirt. Something in Lily's bravado reminded her of herself, sharp edges hiding soft fears. "I gave your father my word I'd come. And I came." She met Lily's eyes steadily. "I don't break promises." "Mama broke hers." Lily's voice went small. She promised she wouldn't leave, but she died anyway. The pain in those words cut clean through. "That wasn't her choice, sweetheart. I'm sure she fought to stay." Lily searched Nora's face, then touched her escaped hair. "It's really red. Like fox pelt." Lily, Jackson sounded mortified. Nora laughed. "It is rather fox-like. My mother said I was too bold for proper blonde hair. Red suited my temperament." She stood, meeting Jackson's eyes over his daughter's head. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. "Can you cook, Miss Bennett?" "No," Nora said honestly. But I can read, do figures fast enough to shame accountants, speak 3 languages, and learn quickly when my survival depends on it. Jackson almost smiled. You're honest, at least. Come inside. The interior was surprisingly refined. Hardwood floors. Carved furniture. Lace curtains that spoke of a woman's touch, now absent. Lily sleeps across the hall, Jackson said upstairs. My room's at the other end. This is an arrangement. I'm not expecting. He trailed off. Nora's face flamed. I understand. That's acceptable. Acceptable? He huffed. You're a strange woman. I'm a practical woman in difficult circumstances. Same as you're a practical man who needs help. She met his eyes. Shall we be honest? You're not a romantic hero. I'm not a blushing bride. We're 2 people making the best of hard situations. Jackson studied her, then nodded. Reverend's coming Sunday. That gives you 4 days to change your mind. I won't. We'll see. First week, compressed. Nora's first week proved she was catastrophically unequipped for frontier life. The biscuits came out black as coal. The stew resembled salted concrete. She flooded the kitchen trying to work the pump. Lily watched each failure with poorly concealed glee. Jackson said nothing. Just cleaned up with patient efficiency that felt worse than criticism. On the 3rd morning, Nora burned breakfast so badly the smoke drove them outside. Maybe, Lily said sweetly, you should stick to things you're good at. Like standing there looking pretty. The words hit like a slap. Nora turned away, blinking hard. She found Lily that afternoon in the barn, sobbing over a doll with a torn dress. I can't fix it. Lily gasped. Mama knew how, but I don't, and Papa's hands are too big. Nora's heart cracked. She sat in the hay, taking the doll gently. I may not cook, but I can sew. Let me try. She spent the afternoon mending with tiny stitches while Lily watched. When finished, she'd added a small pocket with an embroidered L. For keeping treasures, Nora explained. Every girl needs a secret pocket. Lily threw her arms around Nora's neck. Thank you, thank you. You're good at that. Nora looked up to find Jackson in the doorway. At what? Being what she needs. His voice was rough. Sarah, my wife, could do everything. Cook, sew, manage the ranch. He stopped. You're nothing like her. But Lily hasn't smiled like that since Sarah died. I'm not trying to replace her, Nora said carefully. I know. Jackson stepped closer. That's why it might work. Wedding day. Sunday arrived with unseasonable heat. Nora dressed in pale blue silk, her only good gown, salvaged from creditors. She looked like a bride. Even if this wasn't real. Lily burst in. Papa's ready. You look pretty. Are you scared? Terrified? Don't be. Papa's good. He's just sad sometimes. Jackson waited in the parlor in a dark suit. He'd shaved and tamed his hair. The sight made Nora's stomach flip. You're beautiful, he said, startled he'd spoken aloud. You clean up well yourself. When it came time for vows, Jackson's hand trembled as he slipped a gold band on her finger. I promise to honor and protect you, he said quietly. I may not be the husband you dreamed of, but I'll be faithful to this arrangement. Nora's throat tightened. I promise to care for your daughter and be a true partner. I may not be what you expected, but I'll try with everything I have. You may kiss the bride. Jackson hesitated, then pressed the briefest kiss to her lips. It lasted 3 seconds. It seared through her like lightning. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark and startled. Lily cheered. Ranch hands clapped. And Nora Bennett became Nora Blackwood, feeling like she'd jumped off a cliff. 2 weeks later. A late spring storm rolled in with vicious intensity. Jackson and his men worked around the clock, moving cattle to shelter. Nora stayed with Lily, but as hours passed, her anxiety grew. Jackson had been out for 6 hours in dropping temperatures. She bundled Lily in blankets and began heating water, gathering bandages. When the door finally opened, Jackson stumbled in soaked, shaking, blood running from his forehead. Steer bolted. Caught me with his horn. Nora was already moving, helping him out of wet clothes without embarrassment. She'd volunteered at Boston's charity hospital. This was no different. Except it was. Her hands shook as she cleaned the wound. She couldn't stop noticing the breadth of his chest, the way he watched her. This needs stitches. I'm going to hurt you. I've had worse. But he gripped the chair arms hard as she worked. Nora talked softly about Boston, her father, anything to distract him. Anything to distract herself from how terrified she'd been when he hadn't returned. Return to opening. There. She tied off the stitch. Try not to get gored again for a week. Jackson stood. His shadow swallowed the kitchen. He caught her chin, tilting her face up. You were worried. About me. You were bleeding. You called me Jackson. While stitching. You didn't notice. She hadn't. Too focused on the blood, the wound, her shaking hands. This isn't just an arrangement anymore, Jackson said quietly. Is it? Nora had learned that lies were more dangerous than truth. No, she whispered. Not for me. His thumb brushed her cheek. Good. Because I'm falling in love with you, Nora Blackwood, and I need to know I'm not alone. Her breath caught. You what? Sarah died giving birth to our second child. I lost them both in one night. I told myself I'd never risk that pain again. That I'd find a practical wife. Keep my heart separate. His hand cupped her face. Then you showed up, burning everything but refusing to quit. Sewing pockets for Lily's doll. Stitching my head. His voice dropped. I'm terrified, Nora. Because I'm starting to need you. And need leads to loss. Nora reached up with trembling fingers. I'm terrified too. I came because I had nowhere else. I thought I could be practical. Keep distance. She laughed shakily. But you're good. Lily's stolen my heart. And every time you look at me like I'm precious instead of just useful, I feel like I'm falling. We're both idiots. Complete fools. What do we do? Nora leaned against his chest, feeling his thundering heart. We could try. Try being more than an arrangement. Try being real. Jackson's arms came around her. I don't know how to do this halfway. If we try, I'm going to fall completely. I'm going to need you in ways that terrify me. Then fall. I'll catch you. You're too small. I'm tougher than I look. His laugh was shaky. Yeah. You are. He kissed her, not careful or brief, but hungry and tender and full of weeks of tension. Nora gripped his shoulders, overwhelmed by his size and strength, but also his gentleness. His hands spanned her waist, trembling like she was precious. Does this mean Nora's really staying forever? They broke apart to find Lily in the doorway, smiling with too much maturity. Jackson laughed, rusty but genuine. If she'll have us. Both of us. For real this time. Nora looked at Lily's hopeful face, then Jackson's steel-gray eyes. She thought about Boston. About being too small for Montana. About arrangements that became something she couldn't name. I'll try, she said softly. I'm probably too small for this. For you. For this wild place. But I'll try. Jackson lifted her off her feet as she wrapped her arms around his neck. That's all I'm asking, he murmured. Just try. With me. Starting now. And Nora Blackwood thought about that desperate girl with $3 and a telegram. She'd thought she was choosing survival. Instead, she'd chosen everything. 2 months later. Nora stood on the porch watching another storm roll in. She'd learned to read Montana weather now. Learned the stove. Learned her talent for bookkeeping saved them hundreds of dollars. She'd learned Jackson's size meant he could lift her onto horses with ease. That his strength was matched by gentleness. That he woke from nightmares about Sarah and needed to be held. She'd learned loving him hurt and healed equally. Mama. Lily ran up with wildflowers. For the table. Mama. The word still made her throat tight. Jackson appeared across the pasture. Her heart still skipped at the sight. He swung down, crossed the yard, swept her up despite protests. Put me down, you giant. Never. He kissed her, then set her down gently. News from town. That Boston lawyer responded about your father's estate. Nora tensed. And? Your father had a trust your mother set up. Creditors couldn't touch it. He watched carefully. Not a fortune, but yours. Enough to go back if you wanted. Start over somewhere easier. Nora looked at Lily on her skirt. At the mountains she'd learned to love. At this impossibly large man who'd become her world. I am starting over. Here. With both of you. Montana isn't too big anymore. She touched his face. I've grown to fit it. You sure? His voice was rough. Because I need you to be sure, Nora. I need you to choose this. Choose us. I choose this. I choose Lily. I choose you. Every day, Jackson Blackwood, until I have no days left. He kissed her again. Lily groaned. They're always kissing now before running off. That night, after Lily slept, Jackson knocked on Nora's door. Their ritual. Him asking permission. Her inviting him in. I love you, Jackson said from the doorway, words pulled from somewhere deep. I've been trying not to, but I do. I love your stubbornness and terrible cooking and how you look at me like I'm more than just big and useful. I love how Lily lights up when you walk in. I love. Nora placed fingers on his lips. I love you too. All of you. Even the parts that are too big and terrifying. She smiled. Especially those parts. His laugh was shaky. He picked her up easily. Nora wrapped her legs around his waist, marveling at how natural this felt, being small in his arms but never diminished. Is this really happening? Are you really mine? We're really each other's, Nora corrected. Partners. Equals. Even if you are annoyingly taller. He carried her to the bed they'd started sharing, and Nora thought about that desperate Boston girl with $3. She'd thought she was choosing survival. Instead, she'd chosen a future full of storms and wildflowers. A daughter who called her Mama, and a giant of a man who held her like she was the strongest thing he knew. Montana wasn't too big anymore. It was exactly the right size for the life she was building, one brave choice at a time. And Jackson Blackwood, intimidating, gentle, impossibly dear, was exactly the right size for her heart, which had somehow grown large enough to hold all of this wild, beautiful, terrifying love. I'll try every day, she whispered. I'll keep trying. That's all I need, he said. That's everything. And it was. If Nora and Jackson's journey touched your heart, let me know in the comments which moment resonated most. Subscribe for more stories where love is as wild and vast as the frontier itself.